over the years, I've spoken, guys, since 2012 with literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of expats, aspiring expats, over a wide variety of topics. And while it's in the minority, I have numerically spoken to dozens of guys who have, when they were listing to me, oh, well, I want to get to the Philippines and I'm looking for a certain kind of Filipina. And that's where everybody kind of has something different they're looking for. There's some generalities, of course. They want a traditional woman with traditional values, understands the different roles that a husband and wife play in a marriage. Some of those things are pretty constant. But one of the things that comes up in the minority are guys that will say, and they've never been to the Philippines usually, and they will say, well, I want to get to the Philippines, and here's what I'm looking for in a Filipina. I want her to be sweet, and I want her to be from the province, and I want her to be kind-hearted and faithful and loyal. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's all reasonable. But then this other criteria they have is completely in contradiction to what they're going to find here in the Philippines. And it's when they say, and what I want is for her to be able to engage in deep and complex conversations. And right there, that's where you hear kind of the record skip or the brakes hit. Because you're looking for a real anomaly to expect that a woman is going to grow up in the province with a very basic education. And from what I've seen over the years, there is so much that is simply not taught compared to other school systems in other nations. That's a whole other subject. But to think that you're going to find a sweet, kind Filipina from the province with a basic high school education who's going to have deep thoughts or opinions on history or current politics, whether it be the Philippines or global politics, to think that she's going to have opinions on the BRICS nation and where the market's going to go. Is gold or silver a good place to hedge your money against inflation? If these are the kind of conversations a guy thinks he's going to get from a Filipina from the province, these guys are pretty much looking for a unicorn among unicorns. Now, when I talk to these guys and I tell them this, they say, okay, well then this is really important to me. So in that case, I'm only going to date Filipinas from the big cities who have graduated from university, and that way it'll be more likely that we can have these kind of conversations. And that's when I ask them, really, how important is it to you that you have these kind of conversations like in a turnkey, ready-to-go situation? Because statistically, women who have grown up in the city, women who have gotten a college degree in the Philippines, did not make all that sacrifice and all that work and study to get a degree and then just be a full-time mom and wife. They want to put that degree to work. If they got a degree in architecture or engineering or the medical industry, whatever it is, she doesn't want to just take that degree and stick it in her drawer. She's going to want to develop a career. She's not going to be the traditional province type Filipina who is 100% ready to be at home, be a mother, be a full-time wife. With the college degreed Filipina woman, you can pretty much plan on the fact that you're going to see her part of the week because she'll be out either at her career, commuting, coming home, maybe 5, 6 p.m. That's if she works a day shift. And mostly you're going to see her on the weekends. Now, for a lot of guys, to them, that's a godsend. They don't really want a wife that's around much anyway. So in those cases, it kind of works out. But for the guys that want the best of both worlds, they're really chasing their tail. Now, the good news is there is a solution. You can build a strong long-term relationship and marriage with a woman that I first described from the province, maybe not so highly educated, but has a great heart. She's loyal, she's faithful, she's a great companion, all those things. And the solution is, rather than expecting her to turnkey, be ready at the drop of a hat to start talking about major philosophies and deep conversations about science and black holes and nebulas and time travel or whatever else it is that you're into talking about. Instead, you'll need to approach it from a different angle. You can have those conversations about religion, about politics, about social injustice. You can have these big conversations with a province Filipina, but it's not going to be a conversation where you are gleaning her well thought out opinions on the matter, because she doesn't have any. She's never given it a second thought. In fact, you'd have to explain the topic to her first, and that's the first time she's hearing about it. So instead, what I have found works so much better is a combination of two things. Number one, I have these kind of conversations with my wife all the time. I would say no more than 3 days go by in the week without us talking about some major big issue type of conversation. And again, it might be politics, it might be social injustice, it might be crime, it might be relationships, it might be any big thing, including science and weather and all that. But the way we have these conversations is that when the topic comes up, she will tell me, well, here's what I think, or she will ask me questions like, why does this happen? Something along those lines. And then my job, my side of the conversation, is to equip her, give her the 3-minute presentation so that she at least has a working knowledge of what's behind the topic. And that's where we might end up talking about it for 45 minutes or an hour. Anything from the role of MacArthur with the Philippines to why our investments went up or down. I start out by giving her the premise, giving her the foundation. I explain to her, like, say, for instance, an investment that we're doing. And she may ask, oh, so how's the one investment doing? And I say, well, it's kind of down right now. That's expected. And then she's like, well, why? Why would it go down? Isn't it supposed to always go up? I go, well, that's what everybody wants, but that's not how it works. And then I'll say, well, here's why a price can go down. It can go down based on some bad news that came out in the news directly affecting that investment. That's one reason. People get scared. They sell it off. If you've got more sellers than buyers, price goes down. And sometimes that'll lead into like doing an example where I tell her, okay, let's say that you were selling mangoes at the marketplace and you bought these mangoes for 10 pesos each and you're selling them for 30 pesos each. You're making some good money because you're the only person in the mercado that's selling mangoes. But then the next day, 5 other people are selling mangoes, and to get the business, they see that you're selling them for 10 pesos, so they lower their price to 9 pesos. And then that becomes the new price. And then the next day, people drop it down to 8 pesos. Why? To get the business. So what you see is you started out at a selling price of 10, but now that you have more sellers and fewer buyers, well, now the price is going to go down. And I go, it works the same way with investments, no different. And see, so these conversations rely on us men being willing to be in a position where we share our knowledge with them. As I've said so many times before, if you're going to be with a younger woman, most especially, you have to some degree, be a mentor to bring her slowly up to speed on anything that you're talking about, anything that you're going to make a decision on together. You need to share with her what she needs so that she is well informed. But if a guy just expects her to off the cuff already know about all these subjects that we ourselves, for one thing, had several decades more to take time to learn, we have experience with it, and expect a younger woman who's never had to deal with these subjects to have deep developed opinions on these things is really unreasonable. Now, as I've mentioned in another video, one of the benefits of dating an older woman is that she has had more life experience and already has a lot of these opinions. I remember dating an older woman, she was 49, Filipina, and her and I could sit back with a glass of wine, looking out over the beach from this place called Hayahai there in Dumaguete. And we would sit there up on the balcony and, at night and listen to the ocean come in. And we would just sip red wine and talk about everything from politics to history. Now, she had been married to 2 other expats in her life. So again, she had the life experience. She had traveled on her own. So she had seen some things. She'd seen how other governments operate. She's seen other lifestyles. She's seen other cultures. So if you really, really must have a woman that has her own opinions on big ticket items of discussion, you may need to consider being with an older woman. Again, it all depends on how important this priority is to you. Now, I mentioned that there were 2 things you could do. The first one we just discussed is be a mentor, be patient, share with her the information she needs so that now she can think about it and she can share her opinions based on you filling in the gaps and bringing her up to speed on the topic. The second thing you can do is, if having these sort of deep conversations on a wide variety of topics is really important to you, don't put that entire load on your wife or your committed relationship. When you want to have those kind of conversations, call up your expat buddy and say, hey, let's meet for some lunch. And you meet up with him and you sit there with him and you chat about everything under the sun for 2-3 hours. Have those conversations with your expat buddies, because you can more than bet they will have opinions. They'll be usually abreast of the facts or the history behind the topic, and you can have a lot of good back and forth conversation. Now, like I said, the guys that find this need for deep conversation are really somewhat in the minority. But if that's something that you feel is very crucial to your life in the Philippines, don't put the full weight of that expectation on the Filipina that you're in a relationship with. Spread it out. Be willing to mentor her along and teach her so that you can have those kind of conversations. But at the same time, if you really want to just get into the nuts and bolts of something, call up your expat buddy and just have a nice, relaxing lunch talking about everything under the sun. And that way you get your needs met. And by spreading this need for deep conversation between your Filipina relationship and your expat buddy relationships, you won't find yourself frustrated expecting that so much from your Filipina wife or girlfriend.